Welcome to Reflections, a program where we discuss values and virtues for the transformation of the individual and the society in general. I am Father George Ehusani. I have with me in the studio once again Father Emmanuel Ojeifo, who is a member of Terra, but now he is in the U.S. at Notre Dame University, Indiana, studying for his PhD in church and society, religion and society, and what is happening in our society. But Emmanuel, you're welcome back.
Thank you very much, Father George.
Like I said during the first session, you are out of Nigeria at the best time one should be out of Nigeria. You see, when I was out of Nigeria in 1988, 1989, 1990, Nigeria was so good that I was so eager to come back. Now, but the time you are out now, maybe the longer the thing lasts, the better for you.
I'm still eager to come back home.
Now, in the first, we were discussing modern civilization and the crisis of meaning. And I think we need to discuss further on that. Because as I watch, you remember my book, Ojeifo, 1991 publication, Ojeifo, and the various publications I have had since then, lamenting the fact that whereas Greece contributed to human civilization with Greek philosophy, Rome contributed, Italy or whatever, contributed to human civilization with all that we got from
Roman legislation, law,
Roman
social
law,
order.
Also order. Then you can see what China is contributing to human civilization: discipline, order, and so on and so forth. And now they are taking over various African countries because of their discipline. I'm saying, what has Africa contributed to human civilization? What is Nigeria contributing to human civilization? And I don't see anything lasting. And I am worried because after 2,000 years, the West seems to be collapsing. Western civilization seems to be at the end of its cycle. And unfortunately, we seem to be going down with Western civilization. Just look at the youth culture. And you ask yourself, rather than contribute something from our own cultural, traditional, religious, rather than contribute something to Western civilization, the children we are shipping out to Europe and America today are simply going and assimilating into a dying civilization. Finish. They don't seem to be going with something to inject into that dying civilization in order to give it new life. No. They seem to have accepted that we have nothing to contribute.
Partly because these children are not rooted in their own African traditional values, the values of the African traditional society, the sacred values that we hold, values such as respect for the sacredness and the inviolability of human life, because they have not come to a deeper appreciation of the value of their own personal lives. So if you don't value your own personal life, you don't have a sense of the meaning and the purpose of your life, then you don't have a sense of the meaning of every other human life that you see around you.
They have not integrated what I called the value, the Ojeifo spirit, the value of life. They have not sufficiently integrated it before they are shipped out.
And that's because they have grown with parents who are torn apart between what I call the globalization of the Western cultural revolution. Because today, on your mobile phone, on television, you travel out, you are being inundated by these forces of Western civilization, which is being presented as the road to a life of happiness.
Bliss.
New paradise. Enjoyment, paradise.
Freedom without any restraint.
Sense of responsibility. So we are back to the 7 deadly social sins. Politics without morality.
Yes.
Commerce without morality. Religion
without any sacrifice.
Without conscience, without sacrifice.
Talking about religion without sacrifice, one of the things we seem to have acquired from a dying Western civilization is a brand of Christianity that is promoting religion without sacrifice. Prosperity gospel.
That's also a crisis of anthropology. So what we have in Pentecostalism or neo-Pentecostal prosperity gospel is also an anthropological crisis because they don't understand the human person's fundamental origin and the human person's fundamental destiny, which is a gift.
And where the cross
Where
fits in.
the cross fits in, because Jesus makes a fundamental statement, a fundamental anthropological statement with his own life. The Son of Man who did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many.
I hear people, and it has even eaten into the Catholic Church. I hear people talking about powerful men of God.
Powerful prayers, powerful men of God, general this, general that.
General.
Yeah. So it's, what's his name? There's a Nigerian scholar in Boston University, Nimi Wariboko,
Yes.
Who wrote a book, The Transcripts of the Sacred in Nigeria. And it says that Nigerians are suffering from what he calls, there's this hunger for power. There's the hunger for power that human beings are grasping for. And so at every opportunity, you find people who want to show that they have power. Either they tell you, do you know who I am? Do you know what I can do to you? So we live in a society where people have been totally dispossessed. And so at every opportunity, they want to stake a claim for who they are, how powerful they are.
Whether it is in politics, in the economy, in the society, and
interpersonal even interpersonal relationships,
and then in
religion. So we see that what we see manifesting in religion is this hunger for power, is this desire to, because that is what gives them a sense of meaning. Once you lose a sense of your fundamental origin, your transcendental dimension, then everything becomes something that shores up your own sense of personhood, your own sense of dignity, your own sense of the meaning of your life. Which is why you strip people of all of those pristine instinctual cravings and there's nothing left.
They are into crisis.
They're into crisis. So you find even people who want to advertise the number of degrees that they have, they can't introduce themselves without saying, I am Dr. this, I am Dr. that, I am this, I am that, because that's all they've got. Emptiness. So all of this comes in to fill that emptiness. But the most important figures in human history, how do we know them? By one name, by their first names.
Jesus. Socrates.
Plato, Aristotle, Aquinas.
One name.
Yeah. And because they were the most educated people in their society
because they had
something.
They had something, some fullness within. They didn't need national honor. No. They didn't need all the
Grammy awards. They didn't need all the wealth, all the power, all the pleasures of life.
When you have it,
In fact, when you know who you are, you see how all of the things that people are craving for become obstacles on the path of your own self-realization.
So, in this, I do say it in some of my writings. We're in a country where people organize their own award ceremonies. Their own award ceremonies. They pay.
They
pay for the award ceremonies. And then they are celebrated. And then they are smiling. And yet they know that they paid for it.
Because that's all they've got. They have no sense of their own intrinsic worth and dignity as human beings.
So tell us how important in our society, how important is a sense of history, where we are coming from, what values sustained our people, and what values we should struggle to hold on to. Otherwise, we will just be left adrift at sea, as is beginning to happen in our youth culture, left adrift at sea.
If you go back and read the post-synodal exhortations of Pope John Paul II, Ecclesia in Africa, read the exhortation Africae Monos by Pope Benedict XVI, they all come down to one point, that they are values that are associated with African traditions and cultures and religions that need to be preserved. This overwhelming reverence for God, the recognition of the importance of their spiritual orientation of the human person, respect for the dignity of human life,
Family.
Family, the family,
The family.
the importance of
critical place of the family in human
in
affairs.
human affairs. Respect for elders, care for the elderly. These are important values.
Respect for elders, because elderhood is
close to the channel for the transmission of those values.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's also the nearest to the ancestors,
Yes.
the nearest to the supernatural,
Natural.
the elder. The elder who may soon check out. That the elder reminds us when we look at a very old person, which in the modern Western civilization they don't want to see. He's useless.
Yeah, it's useless.
But you see, when you look at the very old person who is feeble and who may die tomorrow, it reminds you
of the fragility of human life,
and that,
but it also reminds you of the store of wisdom that this person has accumulated over these many years.
Yes.
So the Tales by Moonlight kind of environment in the African traditional society, where the elder gathers the children in the evening, sits with them, and then gives an account of his own life's journey and experience. Yeah. And that's the transmission of values to the next generation.
And we are now in an era where that elder, who is the chairperson at the Tales by Moonlight, where he or she has no place
in society any longer, because he doesn't have money.
Yes.
Doesn't have power, and that's because we
doesn't know how to operate the modern gadgets.
Because we have come to associate the indices of a successful life to what do you have? Power, money, pleasure. If you don't have any of these, you are useless. So Pope Francis talks about the throwaway culture. And we see the throwaway culture in our society. It's not just when people carry their parents and grandparents who are of age to nursing and care homes. That's not just that. It's what place do we have for the elder, even in our own social organization? When people are no longer, in our own sense of measurement, economically productive, do they lose their value as human beings? Is there something more that they can offer to society beyond economic functionability
even
and
productivity? By simply looking at
the elder who is in your midst.
Just looking at them, somebody who used to be in their prime, like many of our young people, and now looking at the person frail and fragile and needing help and not seeing well, and learning about the fact that life is not just about power, physical power, mental power. That there is a place for these people, that they teach us a lot of lessons about ourselves. So you are involved in social media quite a bit. I mean, a lot of young people follow you and so on and so forth. Tell us the kind of values that are being purveyed on social media, traded on social media. Where are these kind of things likely to lead us? I mean, when you think of the people who have the most following in our own setting, I keep admiring a place like the US that, in spite of what is happening, see the number of millions of people that follow Bishop Barron. Millions. Jordan Peterson. Millions. But how many intellectuals in this country have 20,000, 30,000 people following them? It's a problem.
It's a problem. It's a big one.
So you say the people who are on social media, who are on Facebook and on Twitter, on YouTube and so on and so forth, you can hardly get an intellectual in this country. Perhaps I'm one of those being followed by many people, but how many? How many thousands? So it's really a problem when you see the people who have millions of followers, that one day in this country in 2019, there was Nigeria signed a commitment with Siemens for 10 or 20,000 megawatts of power for Nigeria, and the post had about 100 people. That same day, some idiot celebrity stripped herself naked on the stage and got 100,000 views. What does this say about where we are heading for in the next 10, 20 years?
Well, it simply says that we are headed for ruin. If we continue on that path, we are headed for ruin. So what we need today is a sort of intergenerational solidarity. And that's very important, because we need to bring back the respectability and the nobility of the intellectual, the elder, the experienced person, the man of wisdom, back into the center
into
of
into the village square.
into the village square, into the center of our social
because
organization.
today the village square is empty.
It's empty. And the only people who can fill this village square with those values are the people who are men of wisdom, men and women of wisdom, people who are able to read the progression of history and help the social prophets, people who point society in the right direction.
You know, we got to a stage where you go to the university now, whether it's University of Lagos, University of Ibadan, Nsukka, or whatever, and you say you want to do your master's or doctorate in classics, or you want to work, you hardly find people are not interested.
So I mean, I was reading a post someone made sometime, a few weeks ago on social media, and it left me in a really bad place, because what was this guy saying? He's a Nigerian who is somewhere in the US, who is saying that if you are doing anything in philosophy, you are doing anything in religious studies, you are doing anything in classics, he simply even says that you are wasting your time. That's not what our society needs. That our society needs computer engineers. Our society needs mechanical engineers. Our society needs software analysts. These are the people who make money. If you want to be a wealthy person, if you want to be a successful person, you have to abandon all of those traditional disciplines that have built society.
People forget that there are mechanics. There are mechanics, there are engineers, there are whatever, but then there are visionaries. That it is the people of ideas, it is the philosophers who dream of the ideal society, and then these technical people now make it happen. Now, if you abandon
the visionaries, the dreamers of society, you are going to end up with what we did with the atomic bomb.
Yes.
Yeah.
Poets are dreamers. Philosophers are dreamers.
Right.
They are the ones that set the stage for what we are enjoying now in Western civilization. But you are saying, let's just enjoy this and multiply it and make no room for any new dreams.
So it's a big problem. So we need, because even our own universities today, when people set up universities, or even the first generation, second generation universities, what are they doing with those humanistic disciplines?
They are being thrown
away. And even when you go to the West, it's still the same situation, because what's the funding for somebody who wants to do a research in philosophy or classics or history?
History of religion.
You don't.
Do you know that? Father Richard, my brother, actually in your university, he wanted to come to your university to study Christian mysticism, and there's nobody to supervise him. So you want to study perhaps the most powerful legacy of the Christian religion, which is mysticism. You want to study the life and the work of the John of the Crosses, of the Teresa of Avila, of the Catherine of Siena, and so on and so forth.
But there's nobody who is a specialist in that.
There's nobody who's a specialist, and it was such a lament. It was such a lament. So today here, and you can imagine, if you want to study any such thing in this country, nobody.
Even the kind of philosophy we do here now is analytic philosophy, European continental philosophy, the same philosophies that of the 18th, post-Enlightenment philosophies that are part of the crisis that we are witnessing.
Yes.
So the last 1400 years of philosophy, you hardly find experts in those areas. And those are the philosophies that laid the foundation
for Western
civilization. So we need to beg the intellectuals. Perhaps intellectuals need to wake up and realize the path of doom, the path of ruin, the path of destruction
on which we are
on which we are headed.
And that they have a responsibility.
They have a responsibility to help rescue society. Because you ask yourself, in the last 20 years, who are the Nigerians who are writing anything of great significance that people can read and say, wow, this is something that makes me stop back, think, and reflect on life, on society in general.
Even the African writers series. I mean, from Wole Soyinka to the Ngugi wa Chinua Achebe, and J.P. Clark, J.P. Clark, and all those. I'm saying, if we do not resuscitate these things, because they help our sense of identity, they help us to recognize that not all that glitters is gold. They help us to recognize that we are coming from somewhere. A society that is no longer doing history. A society that is social history of our people, we don't know. And once a people have no sense of who they are, they can never make progress. Absolutely.
So the work has to be done from various places and from various dimensions. So we need to, the African Writers series, we need that sense of history, which literature also helps us to point to. We need people who are experts in the religious classics to help us see that many of the challenges that we are facing today they are not really new challenges.
No.
Yeah, they may come with a new dimension, but they are the normal existential challenges of human history.
And that we saw it coming.
We saw it coming.
I mean, whoever has read Friedrich Nietzsche,
cannot be surprised by what is happening today.
No. I mean, I am a student of psychology today, and whoever has read Sigmund Freud, you think you can tell me that you don't know that this problem will come?
Feuerbach.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
it's
the crisis of meaning is real. Before we end, what message do you have for young people? Because a number of young people look up to people like you. What message do you have for them if we are to avert a major collapse of civilization, and if our young people are not, if large numbers of our young people are not to end up in mental hospitals, in psychiatric hospitals, what message do you have?
Religion still has a role to play, and when I say religion, I mean that the Judeo-Christian religion still has an important role to play to help us imagine a better society different from the society that we are in now, but also help us to reimagine what the future could look like and should look like. So it's to say young people of faith, young people of faith have an important role to play. I was in St. Joseph's Kubo yesterday for Mass, and the day before yesterday was the feast of St. Maria Goretti. And Father Chris has started this solidarity group of young girls in their teens that he has brought together to be part of what he calls the Maria Goretti Society.
Okay, that's a good one.
And that's a good one. So that's a way of transmitting some of these values to young people. And I was telling the young girls to say that virginity, what this feast simply means is that being a virgin is a good
It's
word.
trendy. It's something that can be trendy.
It's something that can be trendy. It's important. We can see how even at the age of 12, this young girl had been built up into, but that again has something to do with family upbringing. Family upbringing. Look at the 3 little children of Fatima. You can't tell their story without telling the story of their parents, their family. The fact that the parents gathered them every evening to teach them catechism, to teach them the values of religion. So people of faith still have a role. Of course, we can look at the negative picture, but there are still very many young people on social media today who are deeply rooted in Christian values and who continue to promote these Christian values in the posts that they make on social media. So we need to encourage such young people. We need to tell them that even when you are shut down, you are shouted down by people because of what you stand for, because of the values you live by, because of the values you promote, that these values are still important, and that people who know the importance of this value recognize the importance of the work that you are doing for young people. So we need to build up that critical mass of young people that you keep talking about.
And we need to encourage our young people to pay some attention to history. I keep complaining in my chapel here that you say you are a Christian, you are a Catholic, you are whatever, and that you are not interested in those who have lived that Christian life in the last 2,000 years. And we know that the people who lived this Christian life the best lived in the first 3 centuries of Christianity. You're not interested. If you are not interested, then you are not interested in where you are coming from. You can't possibly be heading anywhere serious. So we need to promote hagiography, the study of the saints. We need to promote the reading of history. People need to perhaps write short, summarized
I'm happy you mentioned that short summarized version, because we need to make it attractive. We need to make available and attractive to people, because what's the reading span of young people today? When somebody reads 2-3 lines or at most a paragraph
we also need
that. Of course, we need that.
We need to let people know that you don't build a knowledge base from a Twitter
140 characters
from Twitter.
Post.
You can't. Because if people have told me, oh, Father, these things you are writing, they are too long. I say, look, you never find any knowledgeable person
who just gives you what you need in 140 characters. Yeah. So
and interesting, our young people also need to know. Like I mentioned, Jordan Peterson, who has millions of people following him. Do you know that his average recording is 1 hour. Hours.
Yeah,
1.5 hours.
And you see that people they sit down,
including
and
young boys, young men.
Yeah.
That young men are listening to him, but his average post is 1.5 hours. So don't tell me that this thing is no. Father, give us a 2 minutes version. Nobody is ever educated with 2 minutes. You who are doing doctorate in something, is it 2 minutes?
Thousands of pages that you have to read here, of course. Yeah. So, for different segments of society, we need different approaches, right? Yes. So that's very important. Yeah, we need people who speak to the intellectual class of society. We need people who speak to young people in a way that is attractive and accessible to people of that age. We need people who are able to speak to teenagers. We need people who are able to speak to young adults in a way that appeals to their own sensibilities.
All that you are saying, so, all that it means is that there is work.
There's so much work to do,
and I don't envy people like you, because there's so much work waiting for you. I mean, before we came to the studio, we were just saying, looking at reviewing my book of 35 years ago and saying, wow, we need a new version. We need to rewrite this, because the things that I was lamenting 35 years ago, I didn't know anything. Because what has happened in these 35 years shows that a lot of work needs to be done.
We need a prophetic church as well.
We need a
new prophetic church as well.
We managed to have a new version of Nigeria here
eaten by the locusts.
That is more years
eaten by the locusts.
So we need a new prophetic church
that can help us make sense of the existential challenges that we are facing today, but also show us a path to the future.
So the prophetic church that we need will now be some prophetic words with regards to where we should be heading for. I mean, I do say to people that they say, if you do not change your course, you will end up where you are headed. Where are we heading? And how urgent is it for us to change our course? Whether you are bishop, or you are superior, or you are catechist, or you're just a parent, or you are a youth, we all need to reassess where we are and where we should be going. Thank you very much. I've been speaking to Father Emmanuel Ojeifo, and people can see that I'm speaking to an intellectual. He's doing his doctorate at Notre Dame University in Indiana, USA, about church and society. And we are discussing the crisis of meaning in the modern civilization, the crisis of meaning among the young people of our day, the crisis of meaning in our universities, the crisis of meaning in government. And we are saying
religious houses.
Yes, the crisis of meaning in religious houses, in churches, and so on. And we are saying, what are we called to do? Each one of us. What am I called to do? I am doing the little I can do now. What are we all called to do to avert a major collapse of our civilization? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And God bless you in your studies. We look forward to your coming back to give us some more stuff the next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.